Hello and welcome. Today we delve into a pivotal moment that forever changed naval aviation in the Pacific. The clash over Guadalcanal on Valentine's Day, 1943, when a single aircraft almost overnight challenged Japan's aerial dominance. But what if I told you that amidst the chaos, a Japanese pilot's secret flight log contained revelations that could have toppled their entire strategy? Imagine a fighter so superior that it stunned seasoned pilots, yet was dismissed as mere flying trucks by its own admirers. Could a single encounter with an American aircraft, the F4U Corsair, have begun the unraveling of Japan's once unassailable aerial empire? And what does this mean for the myth of the Zero's invincibility, built on statistics, heroics, and blind confidence? These questions lead us to a shocking truth that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the Pacific War. Stay with us as we uncover the hidden battles, the broken illusions, and the dawn of a new era in aerial combat, starting right now. February the 14th in the year 1943 marked a pivotal moment over the Solomon Islands that would forever alter the course of naval aviation in the Pacific theater. On that day, a Japanese naval aviator, deeply engrossed in his flight log, hesitated only slightly as he penned down observations that, if discovered by his superiors back at Rabaul, could have resulted in severe reprimand or worse. The words he recorded revealed a truth that contradicted everything their commanders had been led to believe about the latest American aircraft, namely the F4U Corsair. Contrary to the rumors and assurances of inferiority, this aircraft was not only superior, but was a marvel that defied current understanding, a machine that would soon challenge the foundations of Japanese aerial dominance. The encounter occurred amidst the thick smoke and chaos of battle over Guadalcanal, where Japanese pilots faced this new American fighter for the very first time in combat. That day, what the Americans would come to call the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, saw 12 fighters from Marine Fighter Squadron 0124, affectionately known as VMF 124, engage fiercely with Japanese forces. The results were mixed. 2 Corsairs were shot down along with several other Allied aircraft, and Japanese losses, while significant, also reflected the ferocity of the engagement. Nonetheless, this confrontation was more than just a tactical skirmish. It was the dawn of a new era in aerial warfare. The arrival of the F4U Corsair in the Pacific was a game-changer. Its capabilities and design fundamentally undermined the Japanese military's long-held beliefs about air combat, technical supremacy, and the supposed invincibility of their Mitsubishi A6M0 fighters. The Japanese pilots, confident in their aircraft's legendary agility and unmatched record, had no idea they were witnessing the onset of a transformation, one that would see Japan's most elite naval aviators, men who had once dominated the Pacific skies from Pearl Harbor to Singapore, reduced to desperate one-way missions in aircraft that had quickly become outdated. The mathematical principles underlying aerial combat were being rewritten, not through the skill or valor of individual pilots, but through tangible factors like horsepower, armor protection, and the relentless pace of industrial production. These elements would soon expose the fundamental flaws in Japan's war strategy, flaws rooted in overconfidence and miscalculations about the nature of air superiority. To grasp the profound psychological impact the Corsair would later inflict upon Japanese naval aviation, it's essential to understand the extraordinary confidence that prevailed in early 1943. For more than 2 years, the Zero fighters of the Imperial Japanese Navy had reigned supreme over the Pacific skies with near impunity. The statistics from that period are almost intoxicating in their display of dominance. At Pearl Harbor, 9 Zeros had managed to inflict heavy damage on the American fleet, destroying 188 aircraft with relatively minimal losses of their own. During the first week of operations over the Philippines, Zero pilots claimed the destruction of 550 Allied aircraft, all while losing fewer than 40 of their fighters, a testament to their perceived invincibility. Further, during the Indian Ocean raid, Commander Mitsuo Fukuda reported that Zeros shot down 45 British aircraft, losing just 4 of their own in the process. These kill ratios, often cited as 10-to-1 or even better, fostered a divine sense of superiority among Japanese pilots and commanders alike. Among the most prominent aces of that time was Warrant Officer Hiroyoshi Nishiwa, who would eventually amass an extraordinary total of 87 confirmed victories. In February of 1943, Nishua wrote passionately to his younger brother, expressing his unwavering belief in the Zero's unmatched prowess. He described the aircraft as the perfect weapon, one that harmonized seamlessly with the pilot's spirit, comparable to a samurai's sword, embodying a unity of man and machine that seemed almost divine. Nishua dismissed American aircraft as mere flying trucks, heavy, cumbersome, and lacking any soul or spirit. To him, the Zero represented an ideal of technological and spiritual harmony that no American equivalent could match. This rhetoric was more than mere propaganda. It was rooted in the real-world performance statistics of the Zero during the first years of the war. Between 1941 and 1942, the Zero's remarkable range of approximately 2,000 miles allowed Japanese fighters to escort bombers on missions that American planners deemed impossible. Its agility was exemplified by a turn radius of roughly 612 feet at a speed of 200 miles per hour, an extraordinary feat that contributed to its reputation for unmatched maneuverability. These characteristics, combined with the aircraft's impressive armament and speed, fostered an almost mythic belief in Japanese aviation superiority, an illusion that would soon be shattered by the arrival of a machine that combined raw power with technological innovation. The arrival of the F4U Corsair signaled the beginning of the end for Japan's once dominant aerial strategy in the Pacific. Its design incorporated advances in engineering, and the Mitsubishi A6M0, a symbol of Japanese aerial prowess during the early years of the Pacific War, was a marvel of its time, boasting exceptional maneuverability and speed. Its engine, a Nakajima Sakai 12, delivered around 950 horsepower, which in comparison to its adversaries provided it with remarkable agility and quick response. This aircraft could reach an altitude of 15,000 feet in just 5 minutes and 30 seconds, a feat that was a full minute faster than the American fighters it often engaged with in combat. Such performance conferred a significant tactical advantage, especially in the initial phases of the conflict. Lieutenant Koname Harada, a seasoned aviator who had participated in the attack on Pearl Harbor and survived the war with 19 confirmed victories, vividly recalled his experiences in a 1976 interview. His words conveyed a sense of invincibility among Zero pilots. "We felt invincible in our Zeros." He described how the aircraft responded to pilot commands almost as if they were extensions of their own bodies, responding with an almost instinctive fluidity. In the skies, Zero pilots felt they could perform elegant aerial dances, effortlessly maneuvering while their American counterparts lagged behind, burdened by heavier or less agile aircraft. Despite the bravery of American pilots, they were often flying aircraft that seemed less responsive, what Harada described as cattle compared to the refined responsiveness of the Zero. The Japanese aircraft, he claimed, were akin to thoroughbreds, powerful, agile, and highly responsive. However, by late 1942, cracks in this seemingly unassailable superiority began to emerge, even if the Japanese Naval Command was reluctant to publicly acknowledge or accept these signs of decline. The Battle of Midway, a pivotal turning point, exacted a heavy toll on Japan's naval air strength. In addition to losing 4 aircraft carriers, the Japanese lost approximately 110 of their most experienced naval aviators, men who had accumulated over 1,000 hours of flight time and combat experience across China and the Pacific. These seasoned pilots could not easily be replaced, and their loss marked a significant blow to Japan's aerial capabilities. More troubling, however, were the technical insights and reports filtering back from the front lines. Commander Minoru Genda, who had played a crucial role in planning the attack on Pearl Harbor and would later help establish Japan's post-war air self-defense forces, analyzed the evolving situation in a classified report. He noted that American fighters were becoming increasingly difficult to shoot down. The emergence of the new F-6F Hellcat, which was just beginning to appear in small numbers, demonstrated remarkable resilience. Pilots reported scoring multiple hits, dozens of 7.7mm rounds on American aircraft without significant effect, a testament to the fighter's durability. The Guadalcanal campaign further revealed a disconcerting trend: the growing numerical superiority of American forces. Where Japanese pilots once faced equal or inferior numbers, By early 1943, they frequently encountered formations consisting of 20, 30, or even 50 aircraft, an overwhelming advantage that rendered traditional tactics increasingly ineffective. The math of industrial production and technological innovation was clearly tilting the scales, and the Japanese concept of Bushido, the code emphasizing honor and individual skill, could not compensate for the stark arithmetic of numbers and industrial strength. The first confirmed encounter between the Zero and the F4U Corsair occurred on February 14, 1943. A small squadron of 12 F4U-1s from VMF 124, having just arrived at Guadalcanal 2 days earlier, was escorting PB-4 Liberators on a bombing mission. The ensuing engagement resulted in losses on both sides. 2 Corsairs, 4 P-40 Lightnings, 4 P-38 Lightnings, and 2 Liberator bombers were lost, while the Japanese lost 3 Zeros and additional bombers. Though tactically inconclusive, this confrontation introduced a formidable new adversary, the Corsair, that would soon dominate the skies over the Pacific. The technological marvel of the F4U Corsair was staggering, especially when viewed from the Japanese perspective. Its power plant, a Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp engine, produced around 2,000 horsepower, more than double the power of the Zero's engine. The Zero's Nakajima Sakai 12, with just under 1,000 horsepower, was significantly less capable in raw power. This disparity translated into performance figures that rendered many of the Zero's traditional tactics obsolete. The Corsair could reach a maximum speed of approximately 417 miles per hour, a stark contrast to the Zero's top speed of around 331 miles per hour. Its climb rate to 20,000 feet was about 7.5 minutes as opposed to the Zero's 12 minutes, and it could sustain control in dives exceeding 450 miles per hour, something the Zero struggled with as it experienced control surface freeze above 350 miles per hour. A decisive encounter during Operation WGO on April 7, 1943, exemplified this. During the early stages of the Pacific conflict, the skies over Guadalcanal bore witness to a fierce and relentless aerial confrontation between Japanese and Allied forces. The Japanese Navy deployed a formidable fleet of aircraft, including a significant number of fighters, specifically 110, tasked with attacking positions held by the Allies. Among these Japanese aircraft, the Mitsubishi Zero fighters stood out as the most numerous and feared, renowned for their agility and range. During an intense engagement at Guadalcanal, Japanese forces encountered a total of 76 Allied fighters, which notably included Corsairs flown by Marine squadrons. The clash resulted in a devastating toll for Japan's aviation efforts. They lost 39 aircraft, while the Allies managed to destroy 12 of the Japanese fighters. These losses underscored the rising dominance of Allied aircraft and tactics in the theater. One of the key figures in these early aerial battles was Major Gregory "Pappy" Boyington, a legendary Marine Corps pilot who would later become famous as the commander of VMF 214, famously known as the Black Sheep Squadron. Boyington, who would go on to amass 28 aerial victories, participated in these initial Corsair operations, which played a pivotal role in shifting the air superiority in the Pacific. In his autobiography, titled Bar Black Sheep, Boyington detailed the evolution of aerial combat tactics, highlighting how tactics and aircraft design contributed to the shifting balance of power in the skies. The Mitsubishi Zero, when flown with patience and precision, was an exceptionally agile and responsive aircraft, making it a formidable opponent for those who remained slow or predictable in their maneuvers. Pilots who flew the Zero often described it as a delight to operate, especially when staying at lower speeds. However, the Zero's true strength lay in its ability to utilize speed and altitude to its advantage. The Japanese pilots adopted a tactic that would become a hallmark of their approach. They would climb rapidly to high altitude, then dive sharply toward the target, firing their weapons during these high-speed passes, a technique known as boom and zoom. After executing their attack run, they used their remaining energy to climb away, avoiding close-quarters dogfights where their aircraft's maneuverability was inferior. This tactic allowed Zero pilots to strike effectively while minimizing exposure to enemy fire. By May of 1943, Japanese technical teams had gained access to a variety of captured Allied aircraft and field reports from combat zones. Their investigations into these captured aircraft revealed a series of alarming truths. The most striking discovery was the engineering and construction superiority of the American-designed Corsair. Its robust build was a testament to the advanced industrial capabilities of the United States, capabilities that Japan simply could not replicate at the time. The Corsair's armor plating, which weighed over 155 pounds, was designed to safeguard critical components such as the pilot, the oil tank, and the oil cooler. Armor so heavy that it exceeded the weight of some entire Japanese trainer aircraft. The aircraft's bulletproof windscreen, with a thickness of 38 millimeters, was capable of stopping rounds fired from 7.7 millimeter machine guns at point-blank range, providing significant protection for the pilot in combat. Furthermore, the Corsair was equipped with self-sealing fuel tanks that contained layers of rubber, which would expand upon being punctured, an innovation that dramatically reduced the risk of deadly fires, a common cause of pilot fatalities among Zero pilots. Most notably, the Corsair's armament was a game-changer. It was fitted with 6 Browning 12.7 millimeter machine guns, each firing rounds with 8 times the kinetic energy of the Japanese Zero's 7.7 millimeter guns. With a total ammunition capacity of 2,350 rounds, the Corsair could sustain a continuous barrage for roughly 30 seconds, triple the firepower capacity of the Zero. The aircraft also used advanced armor-piercing rounds, such as the A&M-2 incendiary and armor-piercing ammunition, capable of penetrating 21 millimeters of armor at 500 yards. In stark contrast, the Zero's armor protection was rendered almost non-existent, leaving it vulnerable in a fight. By June of 1943, intelligence reports reaching the Japanese Naval Command painted a bleak picture of American industrial and military strength, revealing a level of production that was almost beyond comprehension. Over the course of the entire war, the United States would produce an astonishing 12,571 Corsairs, including nearly 5,952 F4U-1A and F4U-1U variants, alongside numerous later models. The Goodyear Company manufactured close to 4,941 FG variants, while Brewster produced around 735 F3A models. These figures contrasted sharply with Japanese aircraft production. Throughout the war, Japan manufactured a total of just over 10,149 Zero fighters, with Mitsubishi building nearly 4,379 and Nakajima assembling approximately 61,570. However, these raw numbers only tell part of the story. The training program in question was extraordinarily demanding, designed to produce pilots of exceptional skill and resilience. It boasted an exceptionally high washout rate of 95%, a testament to its rigorous standards in the intense selection process. Those who successfully graduated from this system emerged not only highly trained, but also equipped with the skills necessary to handle the most challenging aerial combat situations. However, despite its excellence, this training system was limited in scale, capable of producing only about 100 pilots annually. Such a modest output meant that the entire pool of highly skilled pilots was quite small, making each loss in combat a significant blow to the overall strength and experience of the force. In stark contrast, the United States Navy's approach to training was vastly more expansive and capable of generating pilots at a much higher rate. By the year of 1943, the Navy's program was churning out approximately 25,500 pilots each month, a staggering number that underscored the industrial and logistical scale of American military efforts. This rapid output was critical in maintaining a large and capable fleet of trained pilots, ready to replace losses and sustain ongoing combat operations across vast oceanic theaters. Before being deployed into combat scenarios, these American pilots underwent extensive training, accumulating around 600 hours of flight practice. This included about 200 hours specifically in advanced fighter aircraft, ensuring that they were well-versed in the nuances of high-performance combat flying. Meanwhile, the Japanese replacement pilots arriving in 1943 received considerably less training. Their total flight hours often ranged from only 100 to 150 hours. This stark difference in training hours meant that American pilots entered combat with a much deeper reservoir of experience and familiarity with their aircraft compared to their Japanese counterparts. As the war progressed into 1945, the disparity in pilot experience became even more pronounced. Some kamikaze pilots, driven by desperation and limited training, had accumulated as little as 40 hours of flight time, an alarmingly low figure given the complexity of aerial combat. The mathematics of replacement and attrition highlighted a brutal reality. Every experienced zero pilot lost in battle was replaced by someone who had only received about 1/6 of the full training. Consequently, each aerial engagement further eroded the quality of the Japanese pilot corps, as less experienced pilots filled the ranks of the fallen. This widening gap in pilot proficiency and experience had profound tactical consequences. Every enemy aircraft shot down by a trained, seasoned pilot was effectively replaced by a less capable successor, leading to a steady decline in combat effectiveness for the Japanese Air Forces. Over time, the difference in quality became glaringly evident and impossible to ignore. Each engagement resulted in the loss of Japanese aircraft and pilots, while the United States' superior training and numbers allowed them to maintain a technological and qualitative edge. One of the most illustrative examples of this decline was Japan's fortress of Rabaul, located in the South Pacific. This strategic stronghold became, over time, a veritable graveyard for Japanese naval aviation, as relentless Allied assaults decimated its defending forces. Between October 1943 and February 1944, sustained battles pitted Japanese squadrons equipped with the venerable Corsair against Allied fighters, primarily American pilots flying F-6F Hellcats. The relentless attrition during this period resulted in catastrophic losses for Japan's remaining experienced pilots, effectively dismantling their veteran cadre. The statistics from this intense period of combat paint a stark picture of systematic annihilation. On the 11th of November 1943, carrier-based air groups, including Corsairs, launched strikes against Rabaul's harbor and airfields. Out of a fleet of approximately 270 Japanese aircraft, 35 were destroyed outright and another 40 sustained damage. These losses severely weakened Japanese air power in the region. By mid-December 1943, when a major Allied raid involving 31 Marine Corsairs, 22 Navy Hellcats, and 23 RNZ AF/AFP-40S was mounted, the Japanese forces could muster only minimal opposition. Any interceptors that attempted to challenge the attacking formations were quickly shot down, often before they could reach their targets. By the beginning of 1944, Japanese pilots had become increasingly hesitant to engage the more modern American fighters unless they held overwhelming numerical superiority. This marked a stark reversal from the early days of the war, in 1941, when single Zero fighters would boldly attack entire formations of enemy aircraft with confidence. The decline in Japanese pilot morale and combat effectiveness was palpable, and their reluctance to engage reflected their diminished capabilities. Although the F4U Corsair did not take part in the pivotal Battle of the Philippine Sea on June 19, 1944, the overall carrier operations in that engagement were predominantly conducted by the F-6F Hellcat fighters. The battle itself marked a complete and decisive reversal in aerial supremacy, showcasing the dominance American fighters had achieved over their Japanese counterparts. The combat results were devastating for Japan. Approximately 445 Japanese aircraft were destroyed, compared to only about 30 American aircraft lost in combat. This represented a dramatic turnaround. Faced with overwhelming circumstances, they found themselves devoid of both the necessary combat skills and the aircraft capable of an escape. The arrival of the F4U Corsair in October of 1944 marked a turning point. Powered by an engine delivering 2,450 horsepower, which could be boosted to 2,760 horsepower through water injection, and capable of reaching a top speed of approximately 446 miles per hour, this aircraft obliterated any lingering illusions of superiority held by the Japanese fighters. The introduction of this formidable machine meant that, in a head-to-head confrontation, the Corsair could outperform the Zero in every conceivable flight regime, be it speed, altitude, or climb rate. This technological leap underscored a stark reality for the Japanese. Their fighters were no longer competitive. The psychological impact of this was profound. The once proud elite squadron pilots, who had viewed themselves as invincible, now faced a bitter truth. Many were being pushed toward the desperate and tragic path of kamikaze attacks, effectively a symbolic acknowledgement of their defeat. Vice Admiral Takejiro Onishi, the man responsible for organizing Japan's first kamikaze units in October of 1944, articulated the brutal calculus during a staff meeting. He explained that if Japan continued relying on conventional tactics, they would lose every single aircraft with minimal damage inflicted upon the enemy. Conversely, if they resorted to special attacks, such as suicide missions, they would still see all their aircraft destroyed, but might achieve some strategic or psychological gains through the damage inflicted on Allied ships. The first organized kamikaze assault took place on October the 25th in the year of 1944 during the Battle of Leyte Gulf. In this operation, 50 Zero fighters, each armed with 250 kilograms of bombs, took part in a daring attack on American escort carriers, a desperate attempt to inflict damage against a numerically superior foe. From this point onward, the nature of air combat in the Pacific had shifted dramatically. Marine Corsair pilots found themselves intercepting not just traditional enemy aircraft, but also these suicidal assaults, an unprecedented and tragic reversal of the roles they had trained for. Lieutenant Yukio Seki, who led the first official kamikaze mission, left behind poignant words before his death. He remarked, "Japan's future looks bleak if it is forced to kill one of its best pilots," revealing his awareness of the tragic necessity of such tactics. He further confessed, "I am not going on this mission for the Emperor or the Empire. I am going because I was ordered to." His words reflected a sense of despair and resignation, emblematic of the broader cultural and military shifts sweeping through Japan by mid-war. By the year 1945, detailed documents captured by Allied forces and subsequent analyses after the conflict laid bare the vast technological disparity between the combatants. Comparing the F4U Corsair of 1945 with the Japanese Ura 6M50 Model 52 of 1943, the differences became glaringly apparent. The Corsair's maximum speed of approximately 446 miles per hour surpassed the Zero's top speed of around 351 miles per hour. Its service ceiling reached about 41,500 feet, notably higher than the Zero's 36,250 feet. The Corsair's rate of climb was an impressive 3,870 feet per minute, compared to the Japanese fighter's 2,625 feet per minute. In terms of power, the Corsair was equipped with a 2,450 horsepower engine, an even more potent 2,760 horsepower with water injection, while the Zero's engine produced just over 1,130 horsepower. The weight of the aircraft further emphasized the disparity. The Corsair's empty weight was approximately 9,250 pounds, while the Zero weighed around 4,136 pounds. Its firepower was also superior. The Corsair could carry a weight of fire totaling about 6.7 pounds per second, against the Zero's mere 2.3 pounds per second. In addition, the Corsair featured armor protection, specifically 25 millimeters of armor, whereas the Zero lacked any armor at all. Its fuel tanks were designed with self-sealing capabilities, providing vital protection against enemy hits, unlike the Zero's vulnerable fuel tanks. Post-war analyses and the industrial statistics that emerged in the aftermath of the conflict underscored the hopelessness of Japan's strategic position. In 1944, the United States produced a staggering total of 100,752 aircraft, of which over 1,731 were fighters. During the same period, Japan managed to produce just under 28,180 aircraft, with approximately 5,174 fighters, numbers indicating a clear disparity. Economically, the gap was equally stark. The United States' gross domestic product in 1944 reached about $1,499 billion, adjusted to 1990. Before their final missions, the presence of the formidable Corsair significantly altered Japanese tactical strategies, forcing fundamental changes in how they approached aerial combat. The dominance of this aircraft was so overwhelming that by the year 1944, official standing orders explicitly forbade Japanese pilots from engaging Corsairs unless they possessed at least a 3-to-1 numerical advantage. Even in such rare cases where the odds were in their favor, pilots were instructed to carry out only a single attack run and then immediately disengage if their initial effort proved unsuccessful. The guidelines distributed to Japanese aviators in late 1944 made it quite clear that they were at a severe disadvantage when facing Corsairs. These instructions laid out a strict set of do's and don'ts. Never attempt to outclimb a Corsair, never try to outrun it by diving away, and most importantly, avoid head-on attacks at all costs. The superiority of the Corsair's armament was emphasized repeatedly, and pilots were warned to never fly straight and level for more than 20 seconds, as this made them easy targets. If they found themselves bounced by a Corsair, the recommended tactic was to execute a split S maneuver to break the pursuit and attempt to escape at the lowest possible altitude, knowing that survival depended on swift, decisive actions. Engaging the enemy was only advisable under conditions of overwhelming numerical superiority and surprise, because the situation by early 1945 had deteriorated beyond mere crisis. Total collapse was imminent. Japanese pilots were often flying aircraft that had not undergone proper maintenance for months, with fuel loads compromised by using lower-octane fuel, 87 octane instead of the recommended 91 or 100 octane for optimal performance, and their ammunition supplies were reduced to save weight, further diminishing combat effectiveness. Meanwhile, American Corsair squadrons, operating from fleet carriers after December 28, 1944, when they finally received approval for carrier-based operations, enjoyed a decisive and overwhelming advantage in virtually every facet of combat. These advantages included radar-guided targeting, comprehensive rescue services, regular maintenance routines, and the rotation of pilots back home after their combat tours, all of which contributed to their superior operational readiness. The comprehensive statistical record of confrontations between Corsairs and Japanese Zero fighters vividly demonstrates American dominance. Overall, the Corsair achieved a total of approximately 2,140 aerial victories against enemy aircraft, while suffering only around 189 combat losses. This results in an extraordinary kill ratio of roughly 11.3-to-1. When focusing specifically on encounters with Zeros, the record confirms that the Corsair was responsible for approximately 1,562 kills, while losing only 124 aircraft, an even more impressive kill ratio of about 12.6-to-1. This disparity extended beyond aircraft losses to pilot survivability. American pilots who were shot down but managed to survive had a survival rate of about 64%, whereas Japanese pilots in similar circumstances had a survival rate of only around 8%. The Corsair's dominance was not merely a matter of aircraft performance. It embodied the core of American industrial philosophy. The United States believed in solving problems through overwhelming material superiority, producing more and better equipment to ensure victory. Conversely, the Zero fighter represented Japanese strategic philosophy, which focused on achieving maximum capability with minimal resources, emphasizing efficiency, agility, and resourcefulness over brute force. When these two contrasting philosophies clashed in combat, the clear victor was material abundance. The American approach, backed by superior technology and industrial capacity, proved decisively effective. Jiro Horikoshi, the aerospace engineer who designed the Zero, reflected bitterly after the war that he had built a fighter for a nation resource-starved and limited in materials. In contrast, the Americans built fighters for a country with virtually unlimited resources, an approach that allowed for more sophisticated, powerful aircraft. Horikoshi described his Zero as an elegant solution to poverty, an aircraft designed to maximize performance with minimal resources, while the Corsair was a robust expression of abundance and technological prowess. During wartime, the disparity between these philosophies became starkly evident. Abundance, as exemplified by the Corsair, consistently outperformed minimal resourcefulness. Following Japan's surrender and the subsequent American occupation, Japanese military personnel gained access to detailed information about American aircraft production. The scale of American industrial output shocked many of them. For instance, only Chance Vought alone had produced nearly as many Corsairs as Mitsubishi had managed Zeros. The cost per aircraft further illustrated the difference in philosophy. A Corsair cost roughly $50,000 to $75,000, while a Zero was about $25,000. This disparity was not due to waste, but reflected differences in quality and capability. Americans spent more because they prioritized pilot safety, durability, and performance. The dominance of the Corsair taught Japanese aviation a crucial lesson that would shape their post-war development, that technological superiority and industrial strength could decisively outweigh traditional reliance on pilot skill or minimal resource use. In essence, the Corsair's supremacy in the skies was a testament to the power of technological throughout history. The principle has often held true that in warfare and industry alike, sheer numbers can compensate for technological inferiority. There is an undeniable truth in the saying that quantity has its own kind of quality, emphasizing that the larger the scale of production, the more formidable the overall capability becomes. This concept proved especially relevant when considering the production of aircraft. An extensive fleet of good, reliable planes often outperformed a limited number of exceptionally advanced models. In the harsh reality of combat, survivability of pilots and aircraft was crucial. Dead pilots, regardless of their skill or experience, could not contribute to their nation's cause. Consequently, the capacity of an industrial base, which determined how many aircraft and resources could be produced, played a decisive role in a nation's military power. In this context, the nation that possessed the most advanced and efficient factories invariably had the upper hand. It was not merely about initial technological advantage, but also about maintaining a sustained pace of innovation and production over time. The importance of continuous improvement and adaptation often outweighed early advantages, shaping the outcome of conflicts and industrial competition alike. Over time, static superiority, an initial lead in technology or tactics, tended to become a disadvantage as others caught up or surpassed, leading to a state of inevitable decline for those resting on their laurels. These fundamental insights became guiding principles in the reconstruction and growth of Japanese industry after the devastation of World War II. The lessons learned during wartime about the importance of mass production, technological development, and industrial resilience contributed directly to what became known as the Japanese economic miracle. This transformation was driven by a strategic philosophy that prioritized continuous innovation, high-volume manufacturing, and adaptability, enabling Japan to rise from wartime ruin to become one of the world's most prosperous economies. At the heart of this story lies the confrontation between the traditional Japanese approach to warfare and the modern industrialized military power embodied by the United States. The narrative of Japanese pilots engaging American F4U Corsairs encapsulates a profound clash between tradition and innovation, between the old warrior code and the relentless march of technological progress. The Zero fighter plane, Japan's premier aircraft during earlier stages of the Pacific War, exemplified the pinnacle of weight-saving design, where every component was optimized to minimize weight and maximize performance. Each gram mattered intensely, reflecting a philosophy focused on agility, simplicity, and the mastery of craftsmanship. In stark contrast, the F4U Corsair represented the industrial might, resource abundance of the United States, a symbol of power, durability, and firepower. It was built with no compromises, emphasizing protection, raw power, and versatility. The Corsair's robust armor, formidable armament, and advanced engineering stood as a testament to the American industrial capacity, an overwhelming force that could not be matched by the lighter, more delicate Japanese designs. When these two philosophies clashed over the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, the outcome was almost preordained by the fundamental laws of physics and industrial strength. No matter how skilled the Japanese pilots were, how deeply rooted their tradition of combat, or how spirited their devotion, these human qualities could not defy the stark mathematical reality. The Corsair possessed twice the horsepower, 6 times the firepower, and armor protection, a disparity too great for any tactical finesse or spiritual resolve to overcome. The pilots flying the Zero, who had entered the war confident in their aircraft's superiority, were soon faced with a brutal and immediate reversal of fortune. The Corsair, with its technological advantages, swiftly turned what was initially thought to be an even playing field into a battlefield where the Japanese aircraft found themselves at a profound disadvantage. The psychological impact on Japanese pilots was immense, representing one of the most complete reversals of military confidence in history. They had entered the conflict believing in their aircraft's legendary agility, their warrior spirit, and the tactical superiority of their doctrines. However, they quickly realized that they were flying outdated machines, following tactics that no longer matched the realities of modern aerial combat, and facing an enemy whose industrial capabilities allowed for unlimited production and continuous technological innovation. The F4U Corsair did not merely shoot down Japanese Zeros, it shattered an entire worldview rooted in tradition and limited resourcefulness. This technological and industrial disparity illuminated a crucial truth. Industrial capacity and technological advancement increasingly dictated the outcome of modern conflicts. It became clear that warrior spirit, while vital, could not compensate for the overwhelming advantage provided by superior machinery, modern engineering, and mass production. The Japanese experience in the Pacific demonstrated that prioritizing lightweight, minimalistic aircraft at the expense of protection and firepower was a strategic mistake. Protecting pilots, investing in durable and well-armed aircraft, and embracing industrial scale proved far more decisive than traditional tactics or spiritual resolve. The profound lessons learned during these fierce encounters had long-lasting consequences beyond the battlefield. They catalyzed Japan's post-war transformation from a militaristic empire into one of the world's most dynamic and prosperous democracies. The paradoxical symbolism of the Zero fighter, once called the whistling death by its enemies, became emblematic of Japan.